Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
So this week you sent us a really interesting piece from Fermi Manga University on YouTube. It's all about a book by Marilee G. Adams. Everything works out with positive questions.
That's the one. And our mission, like always, is to dig into these sources you send, pull out the core insights, and, well, give you a solid understanding fast, so you can navigate things without getting totally overwhelmed.
Exactly. We're doing this for you, the learner, someone who wants that deeper knowledge, but, efficiently.
And the topic really hits home, I think. Life throws all sorts of stuff at us, doesn't it? Debt, betrayal, career setbacks, health issues, accidents. It's just part of it.
Yeah, it really is. And while we can't control everything that happens, this material really highlights how much power we have in our response.
Absolutely. You see it all the time. Some people hit a wall and just stop. They get stuck.
While others somehow find a way to learn from it, adapt, maybe even thrive.
Right. The classic example, Steve Jobs getting fired from Apple. Huge setback.
Totally. But he goes off, starts other companies, comes back, and, well, the rest. iPhone, reshaping everything, that kind of resilience.
And what's fascinating here is the mechanism behind it. It's not just about, pretending to be happy.
No, it seems deeper. More about how our own minds work.
Exactly. Specifically, the kinds of questions we ask ourselves when things get hard. That's the core idea.
Okay, so that's the big question we're diving into. How can you stay more positive, or at least constructive, when you're really up against it?
And the key, according to the source, is surprisingly simple but powerful. Changing those internal questions.
Okay, let's unpack that. They start with this idea of two paths.
Yeah, two paths. And they use a fun analogy, like the Jedi and the Sith from Star Wars. You've got the path of the critic and the path of the learner.
Okay, the critic path. What does that actually feel like day to day?
Well, the source describes it as when something goes wrong, the instinct is blame. Blaming yourself, blaming someone else, feeling like a victim.
Right, that internal voice just goes negative.
Exactly. This is the worst. I'm useless. Whose fault is this? That kind of loop. It's all criticism, inward or outward.
Sounds exhausting, honestly. And the long-term effect.
Well, the big one is fear. You start dreading challenges. If everything leads to blame and negativity, why risk it, right?
Yeah, you just want to stay where it's safe.
And you get stuck. The source calls it a muddy swamp. Just bogged down in negativity, unable to move forward.
That's a strong image.
Yeah.
Okay, so the alternative, the path of the learner.
This one's different. It's more about, okay, this happened. What can I learn? What can I actually do right now?
Less blame, more action.
Yeah, and analysis. The internal questions shift. What's the lesson here? What's in my control? What's the best move? It's calmer, more focused on the present.
So it's moving from just reacting emotionally to trying to find solutions, or at least understanding.
Exactly. And the source suggests that the people who consistently grow, who succeed over time, they're usually on this learner path. They see setbacks as, well, data points, opportunities to learn.
Like the Jobs example again. It wasn't the end. It was a detour that led somewhere else.
Precisely. And the really empowering thing is, it's a choice.
We get to pick which path.
That's what the material emphasizes. We have the agency to decide how we respond.
Which brings us right back to the questions we ask ourselves. How do they determine the path?
It's pretty direct, actually. The source says the kind of questions we ask literally shapes our thinking. Critical questions. You're on the critic path. Constructive questions, you move towards the learner path.
Okay, give me an example. Say someone loses their job. What are those typical critic questions?
Oh, instantly it might be, why me? It's over. I'm a failure. What did I do wrong? That kind of thing.
And the source says those feelings of despair might come more from the questions than the job loss itself.
Yeah, that's a key insight. The questions amplify the negative feelings. They frame the event in the worst possible light.
But I mean, that initial why me feeling is pretty human, isn't it? It's hard not to feel that way sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. The source totally acknowledges that initial negative reaction is natural. But the next step is the crucial one. It's about making a conscious effort, even when it's hard, to ask different questions.
Like what? Instead of why me?
Maybe, okay, what can I learn from this? Or what can I actually do about this situation? Even, how could this maybe be an opportunity?
And why does asking those questions work? What's the brain science bit?
Well, the idea is our brain is kind of like a search engine. Ask it a question, and it tries to find an answer.
Okay.
So if you ask it a positive, constructive question like, what can I learn? Your brain starts looking for lessons, for insights, for possibilities.
Ah, so you're directing its focus.
Exactly. You're shifting it from problem gazing to solution seeking or lesson finding. And surprisingly, that process itself can start to make you feel a bit more, well, positive, more in control. You start seeing pathways instead of just walls.
That makes sense. It explains why two people can face the same difficulty, and one gets stuck while the other finds a way forward.
Precisely. The one stuck is probably looping those negative, blaming questions. The other is consciously, or maybe unconsciously, asking more proactive ones.
And you mentioned this often happens unconsciously. We might not even realize the questions we're asking ourselves.
That's a huge point the source makes. A lot of our self-talk is automatic, below the radar. So we don't always connect our mood or our feeling of being stuck to those underlying questions.
So awareness is the first step. Noticing the questions.
Definitely. You have to notice them before you can start changing them.
Okay, so let's get practical. What are some of the specific positive questions the source recommends using?
The first big one is, what can I learn from this?
Right. Even when it feels like a total failure.
Especially then. The source argues there's always something to learn. Every experience, good or bad, has information in it.
Like the debt example you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. Being in debt is awful, obviously, but asking, what can I learn, might reveal things about, say, spending habits, the need for budgeting, maybe even what you truly value. The source calls these lessons tuition fees. Sometimes learning costs us.
Tuition fees.
Yeah.
I like that reframing. So focus on the unseen lesson, not just the pain.
Yes. Contrast that with questions like, I'm useless, whose fault is it, why me? Those questions only look at the negative, they block growth, and honestly, they just make you feel worse, don't they?
Yeah, you can feel the energy drain just hearing them.
Right. But, and this is important, the source also acknowledges that when you're in it, when things are really tough, your focus narrows. Tunnel vision. It's hard to remember to ask anything positive.
So it takes real conscious effort then.
It really does. Even with that narrow focus, forcing yourself to ask a better question can start to shift things little by little.
Okay, so what can I learn is number one. What's another key question?
Another really powerful one is, what can I do right now?
Right now, meaning focus on immediate action.
Yes. The idea is, even in what seems like a totally hopeless situation, there's usually something, some small step you can take. It's about finding agency.
Even in extreme cases, like the massive debt example.
Yeah, they use that extreme example, facing billions in debt. Most people will just think it's over. Negative questions flood in.
Understandably.
But consciously asking, okay, forget the mountain for a second. What can I do right now? That changes the focus.
And the brain starts looking for answers to that question instead.
Exactly. It might be something small. Researching bankruptcy, calling one creditor, maybe something creative, like the source joked about starting a YouTube channel about it.
Maybe not, but I see the point.
The specific answer doesn't matter as much as the process of asking and letting your brain find some action. It gets you moving, even slightly.
It breaks the paralysis.
Precisely. And they even apply this to really tough situations like illness, being bedridden. Obviously, it's natural to feel down, but the principle holds. Focus on what you can still do. Within those limits, what actions are possible? Asking, what can I do right now, is the start.
These are great for personal challenges. What about relationships? Does this apply there too?
It does. The key question shifts slightly. It becomes, what does the other person need, and how can we create a win-win situation?
Win-win, meaning both people feel like they're getting something out of it.
Exactly. The source explains that for any relationship to last, romance, friendship, even business, there has to be mutual benefit. If one person always feels like they're giving or compromising, it won't work long term.
Like the dating example, if only one person is having fun, you're not getting a second date.
Right. Simple, but true. It applies everywhere. Friendships need give and take. Customer relationships need the customer to feel valued. It's a universal principle, this win-win idea.
And they mentioned Adam Grant's work, give and take.
Yeah, they reference his point that the most successful givers aren't martyrs. They're people who figure out how to meet others' needs while also meeting their own. The ones who sacrifice constantly actually tend to burn out or fare worse.
So it's not about just rolling over and giving the other person whatever they want?
No, not at all. The source is clear. Giving through self-sacrifice isn't sustainable. Sometimes, if you can't find a win-win, the best option might be no deal, better than a deal where you consistently lose out.
It's easy to just focus on what I want in an interaction, though. Ego gets in the way, doesn't it?
It really does. We're often wired to think about our own gain first. but the source argues that hinders real collaboration.
So the practice is, when dealing with someone, pause and consciously ask, what do they need here? How can we both benefit?
Exactly. Whether it's your partner, your friend, your client, ask the question. And again, your brain will start generating answers, leading to more thoughtful, more successful interactions. You build better relationships that way.
Okay, fascinating. Lastly, the source talked about questions for self-understanding. What were those?
Right. 3 key ones here. The first sounds simple, but it's deep. What do I truly desire?
Truly desire, not just surface wants.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the daily grind, work, chores, and completely lose touch with what you fundamentally want out of life.
Yeah, I can see that.
So the advice is to regularly ask yourself that. What you really want. More money, a different lifestyle, more travel, whatever it is.
And be honest about it.
Crucially important. No judgment. Just identify the desire. Because often our daily actions aren't actually aligned with those deeper desires. This question brings that into focus.
Okay, so once you know the desire, what's the next question?
The second one is, what choices are available to me?
So how to get there?
Sort of. It's about identifying the means. If you desire more income or more travel, what actions, even small ones, could you take now? What choices do you have?
Even if the path isn't clear.
Yeah. The answer might not be obvious, but keep asking the question. The source suggests even a vague sense of how actions could lead to the outcome is a start. It points towards your next steps.
Okay, desire, choices. What's the third one?
This one digs deeper. What limiting beliefs do I hold?
Ooh, okay. The internal roadblocks.
Exactly. This question aims to uncover those hidden assumptions or mindsets that stop us from taking action. Beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, it's impossible for me.
And those often come from way back, right? Childhood?
Often, yes. The source mentions they frequently stem from early experiences. The goal here is first to just recognize them, see them clearly,
And
then gradually start taking small, courageous actions that challenge those beliefs.
Yeah.
Step by step, you work to break free from their hold.
Wow, that's a powerful set of questions. Okay, so just to quickly recap the main takeaways from this deep dive.
Well, we talked about those 2 paths, the learner and the critic. Choosing the learner path, especially when things are tough, is key for growth and resilience.
Right. And the way to choose that path is by changing our internal questions, moving from critical, blaming questions to constructive, learning-oriented ones.
Yeah, because positive questions get your brain working on positive answers, finding solutions, finding lessons.
You looked at examples.
Mhm.
Good questions like, what can I learn and what can I do right now?
And bad ones, like all that self-blame or why me stuff.
For relationships, the focus is, what does the other person need and how do we find a win-win?
Mutual benefit is key.
And for self-understanding, what do I truly desire? What choices are available? And what limiting beliefs are holding me back?
It really boils down to directing your own thinking through intentional questioning.
It's amazing how powerful just shifting a question can be. What part of this really stuck out to you?
For me, it's that point about actively looking for the lesson in hardship. Because, like the source said, our instinct is tunnel vision when things go wrong. It's so easy to forget to ask those learning questions.
Yeah, you get caught up in the frustration or the unfairness. It takes real conscious effort to step back and ask, okay, wait, what's the takeaway here?
Exactly, that mindful pause.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Think about one challenge you're facing right now, big or small.
Yeah.
What's one question from our discussion today? Just one that you could ask yourself about that situation right now to maybe start shifting your perspective and seeing some new possibilities.